Welcome, friends, to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. Take Two is where we take a fresh look. We look again at ourselves and the world around us. And today is a very solemn day, Jerry. 14 years ago today, we all know what happened at the World Trade Center. And we've been thinking about everybody that has perished during that, all of the firefighters, the police officers, everyone involved around 9/11. It's definitely a day that we remember. We never, ever want to forget. And, you know, like I talk about, Jerry, coming from New Jersey, it hit very close to home for me and my family. And so we never, ever truly want to forget. But today, the topic is we're calling it 911 God, talking about how we rely on God, we rush to God, we race to God when there's a tragedy, when there's a crisis. And then what happens afterwards? Do we stay with God, or do we kind of just get back into our life? So I'm Debbie Georgiani. My co-host is here, Jerry Usher, and this is our topic for today, dear listeners, but we want to hear from you.
Phone number is 1-800-585-9396. And when you think about it, there's nothing wrong at all with running to God, crying out to Him in a time of difficulty or crisis, when things go rough. I mean, think about it on the natural level. What happens when a child falls down and scrapes his knee? He goes running to mommy or daddy. I mean, it's just a natural instinct. And God, as our Father, would want us to do that. But the key is, the challenge for us is, how do we maintain that fervor maybe even when things are going well for us? So we want to hear from you. 1-800-585-9396. Have you been guilty of seeing God as a 911 God, maybe only turning to Him at times of crisis or difficulty, and then maybe that wavered a little bit after that? Or maybe you've found a way, maybe it was a crisis, Debbie. A lot of people have crises, and that leads them to rush toward God, and they love being in His presence so much that turns into a lifetime of a great relationship with Him. Right.
It gives peace and security, and you feel at home. Here come the calls right now. See, 2 just came in right now. See how fast, dear listeners? The calls really coming fast, and because our listeners drive this show. So we want to hear from you. 1-800-585-9396. I just want to go back for a moment to September 11th, 2001, when the tragedy struck New York City. And Jerry, it was beyond words. Nobody really could really grasp what happened in Manhattan that day. But what was a beautiful sight that came out of it was the churches that were just overflowing with people at Sunday services the following Sunday after the Trade Center tragedy. And there was a lot of media around it talking about, wow, look at all these services. It was just overflowing, and everyone had this very reverent, very humble way of attending their services. And there was a lot of people felt, wow, this is going to be, there was some kind of a small, a blessing that came out of this major tragedy.
A revival, almost.
Exactly. Perfect word. And then you saw month by month, Jerry, October, November, and by December, the churches were back to their original attendance before 9/11. And that's unfortunate. That to me was, that was sad, because we had an opportunity to really stand together, stay united, and stay, attached to God. And so, but, a lot of people are saying, well, maybe we need another wake-up call. You don't want to wish for stuff like that, because look what it did to New York and everybody around New York. Everybody suffered that day. And all the people, over almost 3,000 people killed. That's not a way to have a wake-up call. And so that's what we want to talk about today. Lines are filling up. 1-800-585-9396.
911 God is our topic today. And, whether it was planned or just purely coincidence that the World Trade Center attack occurred on 9/11, of course, the numbers 911 have always been used for emergencies. And maybe you have had your own emergency, a crisis of faith, maybe a loss of a job, death of a loved one, maybe a serious accident or something that has caused you to reevaluate quite frankly, what's important in our lives. And that's what happened. That's what Debbie was explaining and describing after September 11th of 2001. These types of things can cause us to say, wow, those things I thought were important just really aren't that important anymore. But again, the key is, God wants all of us all the time. So how have you managed to maybe turn a crisis into a lifelong relationship with God? Or, as I said before, maybe you, like me, like all of us, have had those moments of crying out, God, help, and then when things got a little bit better, it was kind of back on your own. So 1-800-585-9396.
And you know what else too, Jerry? I talk about a lot that I went through cancer. A lot of times when people are hit with a medical diagnosis, they quickly run to God. It's a common thing because, you feel out of control. You don't know what's going to happen. The unknown is just paralyzing to you. And you run, obviously, there's that natural tendency to run to God. So that happens. And that's another personal crisis that happens in people's lives where they run to God. But, I just want to bring this point up, Jerry, because I think it's perfect timing. You and I have been praying about and discerning about and working on together as spiritual exercise component that we can make available soon. And the idea behind it, dear listeners, is that we have to constantly remind ourselves, and the spiritual exercises keep us aware so we don't have to go through, immediate crisis in our life in order for us to make a change. And so that is the whole name of the game. I mean, if you can stay aware of what's happening around you and be in the present moment and understand how important God is in our daily lives at every moment, then, naturally, when crisis does come, and it will come, you're better equipped to handle it. And I think that's why this topic is so important today, Jerry, because we really need to explore that and be reminded on a constant basis. I know I do. Every day I need to be reminded because life overwhelms me. So I just wanted to share that, dear listeners, when you're calling in, maybe share what more we can do to stay aware at 1-800-585-9396.
All right, let's get our break right now. When we come back, we will get to your phone calls. Lines are jammed. If you're trying to get through, be patient. When we finish up with one caller, that'll free up a line for you. Take two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN. You can also weigh in on social media. A lot of people have done that on Facebook at EWTN Catholic Radio. We'll share some of the comments that have come in there as well. Phone number, if you'd like to join us live on the air, 800-585-9396. If you've wanted to go to the Holy Land, this is your year. And what better time to be there than the Christmas season? I'm Jerry Usher, inviting you to join me, Steve Ray, and our chaplain, Archbishop Samuel Aquila of Denver, on the Vocation Boom Pilgrimage to the Holy Land this December 28th through January 6, 2016. Step foot on the very spot where Jesus was born and visit the many places where he ministered, died, and rose again. For details, log on to vocationboom.com. That's vocationboom.com.
I have a new love and respect for the Catholic Church, and those of you who waver in your faith, don't you dare. You stick to your guns, because that's the one thing you can hold on to. When everything else disappears around you, you say your rosary, you do what you guys do, but hang on to your faith, and don't you dare fall off the path.
Stay on God's path and listen daily to EWTN Radio.
Prayer that I recommend to you is the Holy Rosary. I am carrying an assault weapon and a 50-round clip.
Looking forward to hearing what you have to say about our 911 God here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. John on Facebook said, sometimes it takes a real tragedy to make us realize we need and want God in our lives. Unfortunately, in the years post 9/11, we have moved back to being a very secular and godless nation. It's very sad, as I hoped we would have seen the error of our ways, that we need God in our lives all the time, not just when we need his help. And we heard from let's see. I'm
Wow,
not
there's
sure the
so
name.
many.
Da, D-A is the name, Da. I've often wondered if another thing is brought on to bring us closer to Him, will it be recognized for what it is? And Debbie, you made that point. We certainly would hope that it wouldn't come to that.
I know this is, and today I do appreciate the way that the media outlets on TV are spending the day remembering 9/11. I think that is vitally important. We can never forget what happened. We just can't. And it's beautiful the way they have families reading out the names of everybody that was killed that day, and then also making comments. And I really think it's been a wonderful, respectful tribute to all that lost their lives on September 11th, 2001. Okay, we're going to move to Leslie in Portland, Oregon. Hi, Leslie. You're listening on Modern Day Radio. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, Jerry and Debbie. How are you? Thanks for bringing up the subject.
Thanks,
Thank
Leslie.
you.
In 2003, when we first retaliated, it was like March. That was the end of my divorce hearing, and I lost custody of my daughter. And I was sitting at a hotel restaurant watching the TV, that we were going to war. And I decided to join the military and kind of get a kick in the pants. Well, I was estranged from God and just had a deep wound in my heart for not having a personal relationship with our Father, but I wasn't. I guess, do you want me to continue talking? I guess.
Sure, go ahead.
You mentioned 9/11, so I kind of called on a different matter, but yeah. So, and ironically, being in the military really drew me closer to God. I met some wonderful chaplains. I ended up serving as a white rope, which is a chapel assistant, and it was with the Catholic Church because I found their services very peaceful, and that choice led me to God and Jesus, and I guess I'm calling today because I want that spirit, to run to God. I've given a beautiful gift from my parish here in St. Rose, and that's to go to Philadelphia this month. And be a part of the celebration with the Pope coming here.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead,
I'm
Leslie.
just facing a lot of fears about going, and I want to have that spirit, to follow God's plan and be excited to go, and I'm kind of convicted because, like, if I was invited to go to Hawaii or Disneyland or something, right, I'd probably be all on board with that.
Well, Leslie, it sounds like you've been given a great opportunity. Are you going with a group from the Archdiocese of Portland, or by yourself, or what?
Yes, it's a group through the Neo-Catechumenate Way, through the Second Community at St. Rose Parish.
Ah, yes. I know St. Rose well. I was a seminarian for the Archdiocese of Portland and did my pastoral internship year at St. Rose of Lima Parish. So, Debbie, you may have some thoughts, but I just think, first of all, thank you for your service, Leslie, to our country, and also just regarding, how to develop this fervor. It's interesting. Faith. We hear that faith is a gift, and it truly is. We cannot turn it on or off. I mean, we can do things to strengthen it, and we can do things to weaken it, but really it has to come from God, and that really the main way, and perhaps the only way, is spending time with Him. I'm sure you do that, Leslie. You go to Mass and probably spend time in prayer. Debbie, what I would suggest, and we're going to do a whole show on this on Monday, so Leslie, you might want to tune in, but Eucharistic adoration is just vital, just even if it's 15 minutes a day or an hour a week or something like that.
I was going to share the same thing and also echo what Jerry said. Leslie, thank you for your military service. Thank you so very, very much. But here's just a couple suggestions. Throw yourself into Scripture. And like Jerry said, Eucharistic adoration. Fill yourself with the lives of the saints. There is so much we can learn about what they have been through. Their journey inspires us, edifies us. It allows us to grow very deeply in love with the Immaculate Heart of Mary and the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and fall in love. Fall in love, and you can. And I have to tell you this, and dear listeners, please don't take this out of context. There is nothing more exhilarating and exciting than falling in love with your faith. There's no higher high that you could ever achieve. It's so amazing. I can't describe. There no words can describe it. Sometimes when people ask me, can you actually, put it into words? And you hear me on the radio, you think I might have a multitude of words. I don't have any words to describe it. The feeling is so incredibly great of the love when you really can kind of fall beneath the surface of all the things you hear about the Catholic Church and the organizational church, fall beneath that and into the love of the faith of the church. Wow, it's just amazing. So I don't know if that helps you at all. I hope it does, but I would love to hear your comments on that.
Wow, that's really inspiring. Thank you. I forgot adoration. I used to do a lot of that when I was in RCIA. At Cathedral, and I'm just really grateful too for our priest and Father Matt and Father Owen, who really do inspire and sort of give us homework to read Scripture. So
cool,
awesome. Well, thank you, Leslie, for your call. We can hear in your voice just a real tenderness, and I know you express that tenderness and devotion toward God very, very often. So we're going to keep you in our prayers. We'll be at the World Meeting of Families, so if you get in the exhibit hall, stop by. Debbie and I will be there broadcasting every day. So we'd love to meet you in person, and thank you again so much for calling. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. 1-800-585-9396. 911-GOD. Do we rush to God when times are tough and then say, okay, God, thanks for all the help. Now I'm just going to I'll take it from here, God. I got it. Don't worry. Sometimes we do that. Sheila in South Boston. Thank you, Sheila, for your call to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. How are you today? Hello, Sheila.
Oh, hello. I'm so sorry, Jerry. My mom
it's all right.
is on hold. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Jerry, my name is Sheila, Jerry. I listen to your show. You and Debbie, you are great. You are awesome, both of you.
Aww.
And I have watched Jerry, Mr. Russia, with Boom, Vocation Boom.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just learning more and more about your life, Jerry.
Oh,
and,
well.
Great. And Debbie,
Thank
you
you,
too.
Sheila.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, when you're talking about faith, both of you, it is a gift from God. It definitely is. It brought to mind while I was on hold how all of a sudden, I think it was last Sunday, I was saying the rosary at Mother Angelica and listening, and all of a sudden I just, these words were just coming out of my mouth, like so clear and loud, and I just wanted more, and there's just no words, like you said, Debbie, to express the exhilaration. It was just coming right out of me. And my goodness gracious, it was just so wonderful. I kept saying, I wanted more. I wasn't afraid. I just wanted more of God. It was just, like you said, unbelievable. It was so beautiful. And you were talking about the 9/11, how talking about after you rush to God when a tragedy, and Jerry was saying the same thing. You rush to God when there's a tragedy, but what happens after this tragedy has subsided? And do you stay with God? Do you still have Him in your life? And I did not at certain times in the past. But now I find myself more and more. I was so afraid, I think, of it, to have that in me. The grace, God's grace and love. I didn't think He loved me, but more and more I'm starting to feel, His presence and Our Lady, our Queen Mother.
Right.
I'm
No,
just so nervous right now. I just didn't think I was on the air. So thank you so much, both of you. You're wonderful.
Thank you, Sheila.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
You brightened our day, and I love the word you used, exhilaration. That was the perfect word. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for echoing what I had said earlier. But you're so right. You're completely right on about the feelings that you feel. But here's what's great about it. You know, we can't be so hard on ourselves. We're humans, and in human nature, you know, we need to be reminded constantly. And if you go, it's interesting, Sheila, and I hope you're listening to this, because if you go to a bookstore, you'll see that the self-help section in a bookstore is the most frequently visited. And that's because they need the tools to get on with life and to figure out how to stay aware and stay in the present moment. It's human nature. And it's the same way also sometimes with our faith. I mean, we have to be reminded. That is why the rosary, you know, saying a daily rosary, going to adoration on a regular basis, obviously attending Mass on a regular basis. If you can get to daily Mass, that's even better. The graces will be around us always to keep us reminded. And so I'm glad you called in, because it really helped me. And I know that it helped Jerry as well, because we're both nodding our heads. See, we can see each other, so we're both nodding our heads, Sheila, when you're talking.
Did you have anything else, Sheila?
Yes. Is it okay if I say one more thing?
Sure, go ahead.
Sure.
Thank you. I used to go to Mass every day, and on my lunch hours, and then after that, and I have osteoporosis, and it's very difficult for me to get around, and I have to hold on to things. I was so active and so out there, just doing all the time, going and just doing, I guess. But then I came to a stop, and it was so difficult for me. And now, I keep thinking of adoration, to go in front of our Lord in the sacrament, and so much, but I just don't seem to get there anymore. And there was a Father Casey. I walked up to my church, the old church, St. Augustine's, in South Boston, and Mass was over. It was a 4 o'clock Saturday Mass, and he was coming out, and he says, "Oh, the Mass is over, you know," and he come out, and I started talking to him, and all of a sudden he just laid his hand on my head. I did not ask him for a prayer, but he did say a prayer for my back, and I think of him every day. I never met Father Casey. He's at St. Bridget's Church, and the Gate of Heaven, and Monsignor, and I just felt so wonderful. He just laid on saying about my back what God already has done, not what God is going to do, but what he already has done and will do. And this is the prayer he said when he laid his hand on my head. It was just so wonderful. And I always have the rosary with me. I say it quite often. And,
well, Sheila, listen,
I'm
Sheila,
lost
we're
without
coming
it.
up on a break here in just a moment, and I just hate to jump in there when a caller is saying something, but again, we got a break, and it's a timed break. We got to take this one in just about a minute, but Debbie, again, you know what comes to mind right now, Sheila, and Debbie, you may have thoughts on this too, but God never stops pursuing us. You know, we can have those moments of great fervor, and when we're seeking our beloved, in God. And then we can sort of drift and think we got it made and we got it together and do our own thing. But the beautiful thing is we have a God who never, ever stops pursuing us no matter what we do, no matter how far from him we may stray. So, Debbie, I think that's just a beautiful reality that we need to keep in mind.
The thought of that, having God pursuing us, it just makes me feel so at peace and so loved. I mean, how beautiful is that? Sheila, thank you so much for your wonderful call today. You definitely have blessed our day, and thank you for contributing to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We hope you have a beautiful, wonderful weekend. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get back. There's 2 open phone lines, so you might get one if you call in right now, 1-800-585-9396. We're talking about 911 God, when we rush to God, when we run to God, especially if in time of crisis. Well, help us grow. Share your take on Take Two. But right now we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
I honestly can't even picture my life without EWTN. You can get every need met between radio, television, internet. God bless you. Never let EWTN go by the wayside.
If you have a comment about our programming, we'd love to hear from you too. Call 205-795-5773 or send us an email to radio@EWTN.com. Thank you very much for listening. God bless you.
Hi, this is Joan Lewis. In my work here at the Vatican, I'm blessed to speak with all kinds of people every day, from visitors to Rome to Vatican officials, even to the Pope. And every week on our EWTN program, Vatican Insider, I'll share their stories with you. We'll bring you the latest news from Rome. We'll talk with Vatican leaders and newsmakers, and we'll answer your questions. So don't miss Vatican Insider this weekend, right here on the EWTN Radio Network. For times in your area, go to EWTN.com and click on Radio.
On Saturday morning, don't miss the Catholic Business Hour with your host, Dick Lyles, focusing on careers and business with a Catholic perspective.
Hi, I'm Dick Lyles. I look forward to answering your questions about career change, business strategy, overcoming obstacles at work, getting along with challenging coworkers, finding and fulfilling your life's passions, and much, much more.
The Catholic Business Hour, Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
How does faith play a role in your relationship with Christ?
Well, it's like the triangle example, to where as a husband and wife grow closer to God, they grow closer to each other. It's like God is the apex of the triangle.
It's given me the peace of knowing that God is in control. God is not only the God of the universe, but also the Father of my life.
Real people, real faith. Listen daily to EWTN and find out how Christ wants to be the focus of our lives.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. We heard from a lot of people on Facebook about this notion of a 911 God. And Paul had this to say: in distress, prayer evolves. In times of prosperity, most tend to selfishly celebrate, not offer prayers of thanksgiving. Paul, great point there. And Gloria said it does seem in times of war or illness, etc., people draw closer to God, which is sad, as he is always with us, waiting to hear from us. So, Gloria, that is pretty much what we were saying right going into the break there. So, good stuff from you, our listeners, on EWTN Catholic Radio Facebook page. And more good stuff coming on the air live here. Nancy is next in the Boston area, listening on the Station of the Cross. Hello, Nancy. How are you?
Hi there. How are you? Thank you
Doing
for
well
taking
today.
my call.
Sure.
I'm calling from the Boston Archdiocese, and I wanted to share my story. I had lived in New York City for 13 years. I was in the fashion industry, and so I had a lot of friends. I am originally from Massachusetts. I started doing youth ministry and religious education as a volunteer when I lived in New York. And then 19 years ago, I moved back to marry someone from my hometown and started doing religious education and youth ministry full-time. So I was living here when 9/11 happened, and it was so hard for me because I had so many family members and friends, with so many stories. My cousin's husband actually was one of the first responders. He lived, but his captain died, and he was kind of running for safety with the debris, at his feet, and someone pulled him into an alleyway and saved his life as the debris passed him. And so, it was really a trying time, and so this is a day to mourn and remember. But I wanted to share that as I was doing ministry here in Boston, of course we ministered through, the tragedy of 9/11, and then the next year we had the tragedy of the scandal, and that hit really hard here in the Boston area. I felt a real call to form a ministry to try to bring healing and renewal to the church in the wake of the scandal. And I worked with the Cardinal Sean O'Malley, who's amazing. And I was invited to go up to Battagna 2 in Medway, which is a site that was started by Maria Esperanza, who is the approved visionary of the Visions of Our Blessed Mother at Betania in Venezuela. She's now servant of God. She's up for canonization. But my ministry to help renew the church actually started in prayer at Betania. And we would pray adoration every third Monday of the month. For 2 years we did this to let God form this ministry. Out of this work that I was doing in conjunction with the Archdiocese came a call to repentance. And we were trying to promote that and figure out how that would all happen. In that time period, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer in 2007. Now, I was already very spiritual, but the illness brought me to a level of spirituality that I cannot even begin to explain, because I received a profound call from God to offer my cancer as a form of redemptive suffering in reparation for the sins of the scandal, and to pray for the healing and renewal of the church. Now, what's strange is I never believed in redemptive suffering. I never practiced redemptive suffering. Now, granted, I was a youth minister. I was teaching religious education, but I was a resurrection Catholic. I didn't like the cross. I didn't even own a crucifix in my house. So the fact that God called me to this is really pretty profound. So I had to learn what it was. I immediately said yes. I worked with my spiritual director, and I learned the gift of this beautiful Catholic teaching that I believe has been lost and needs to be found. Maria Esperanza practiced this form of Catholic teaching. And so my ministry was formed up at Betania, so we are a fruit of Maria. And what the teaching is that, God never wills bad things, but when they come to us, we have the beautiful, unique opportunity to join with Jesus on his eternal cross, to climb up with him and participate in the victory of the cross that won out over evil for all time. I mean, that is the most amazing and profound privilege. And, once I started practicing this, I saw the fruit of it. I was in treatment for 1.5 years. I had chemo. I lost my hair. I had, horrific pains and various things. But every single time I felt nausea or I felt anything, I immediately offered it up. And instantaneously, I was fine.
Right. Nancy, let me just share something with you, because what you're saying is so profound. And Jerry and I are going to be exploring future topics on redemptive suffering, because it is a much needed practice that needs to be taught and for us to share our experiences. So Nancy, what you're saying, I mean, it is huge, and it speaks volumes, because and I just want to what makes me your story is so beautiful, because if you look at your story, look how God prepared you and put you in the right place to receive that understanding while you were going through the cancer. And by the way, I like to, from a fellow cancer thriver to another, you're now a cancer thriver, so that's a great thing. And so how beautiful it was that you had the youth ministry training and the religious education training and your connection to your parish and your church ministries that led you in the perfect place to understand the redemptive suffering practice while you were going through cancer. Nancy, your testimony, your story needs to be told in a broad way, and it sounds like you have that platform where you can do that. And so I would just encourage you to please continue to share your story and minister to others, because you will impact others. There's so many that don't understand suffering, and they struggle with it, and they turn against God, and that's the worst thing in the world. So I just want to say thank you, Nancy, for taking the time, sharing your story, being with us today on Take Two. You have touched probably thousands of souls with your story, so thank you for that.
Thanks, Nancy, so much for the call. We got several others we want to get to here before we wrap up the show. Got about 18 minutes. Our number is 1-800-585-9396. 911 God is our topic today. And the idea behind that is, when the going gets tough, we race to God and we cry out, God, help, get me out of this situation. Oftentimes situations we've gotten ourselves into. And then when God helps us out, well, what do we do after that? Do we stay close to Him or just kind of maybe drift back into sort of a complacency? We're going to find out what's on David's mind. He is listening on Sirius XM 130 in Kentucky. Hello, David. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hello. You guys might not like this call.
Oh,
Well,
okay. So wait a minute. Wait.
Give it a shot, David.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Let's get a drink of water first. No, go ahead, David.
Yeah, I was raised Catholic. I struggle with trying to be part of the church. I think the church is failing miserably. Not just the Catholic Church, but I live in southeast Kentucky now. I was brought up in Boston. My Catholicism goes as far right now as rooting for Notre Dame. So,
well, you're in. Go ahead, David. Sorry.
I live in a very Protestant area, and if you go to their churches, it's filled with grandparents and grandkids. And none of the youth, nobody under, say, 50 is going to these churches either. Society is breaking down, and right now the world is headed into a conflagration. And I don't see the church as being giving people the answers they need. And I find that more and more. I'm going to tell you about a girl that I talked to, and I do this quite often. We got to talking about things, and I said, "Do you go to church?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, why?" And I said, "Well, why?" And she just looked at me, and I said, "I can tell you why." And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Because God is not real to you." And she told me that. Wow, a chill just went up my spine. And I said, "Well, do you know, who are you?" And she said, "Well, I don't know." And then she said, "Well," she said her name. And I said, "That's not who you are. That's just a name." And so I said, "Ask me who I am." And she said, "Well, who are you?" And I said, "Well, my name's David, but that's just a name. I'm a truck driver, but that's just a profession. And I'm male, but I could have just been born female. So who I am is in the Bible and in physics. Physics, the universe is made of matter. All matter is energy. And so who I am is the conscious energy, because I know I exist. Some people call it a soul or a spirit. And who is manifested in a physical form to experience this world in a physical way. And this is why it says on the Bible, I know every hair on your head before you were born. So we existed before we were born, and we will exist afterwards when this body goes. And she was
well,
like,
David,
well,
let me. I'm going to give you some more time here. I just, while I'm thinking about it, I'm one of those 50-somethings, David. So short-term memory loss is afflicting me more and more with every passing day. So I wanted to comment on a couple things before you continue on there. And that is, this whole notion of what's going on in the church right now. There is that gap. I mean, we see it all the time. If young kids are going to, and this isn't universal, it's not across the board. There are a lot of parishes and places where young families are thriving in the faith. Young people are really starting to, own the faith and raise their families in the faith. But and Debbie, you know this well because you worked, for a diocese for 25 years. We definitely are coming out of maybe a generation or two where, parents, I know a lot of them, Debbie, who, they get their kids baptized because they think, well, that's just what we do, and then we get our kids confirmed and, I guess we better put them in Catholic schools, and sort of just these, rote things that we do, but the faith isn't owned. And so then kids, they grow up to be people who don't own the faith, don't know who they are, as David is trying to explain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, David, I would love to hear your comment on what Jerry just said first before I jump in.
Well, I think that's true, but I think that, listen, I got to be honest with you. When you guys were talking to them ladies before, my eyes were fixing to bleed. Okay, I wanted to stick a hot poker in my eye. We got a lot of things going on in the world. As far as I'm concerned, God does not need sheep. He needs warriors. And the church had better wake up, because the church is on the menu, not just the Catholic Church, but Christianity as a whole. And if we talk about adorations and Mary and all this stuff, but you know something? What the people need is real meat and potatoes type stuff, okay? Because God is not real to the vast majority of people in this world, okay? And
Right.
this is why when I hear this stuff, I'm like, oh, I mean, I could feel the radio. Hell, I wanted to turn the radio off.
Well, David, can I ask why? Because this is really fascinating to me. So let me ask you this question. So it sounds like you want to make God real to people. May I ask you this with all due respect? Have you jumped into ministry and tried to lead ministry to do that in your church?
Well, I have been pulled into this, and I have been most of my friends tell me it's something that I need to do, and I've been pulled to it. I'm not exactly sure how to do it. The Catholic Church is not where I need to be.
Are you baptized Catholic, David?
Of course I am. Yeah.
Okay. Well, wait a minute. Wait, hold on one second,
Irish,
David.
I'm Irish Catholic from Boston.
Okay. Okay. So, David, hold on one second. The Catholic Church definitely is where you need to be. First of all, you're baptized Catholic, and if you leave, there is a void. Whether you know it or not, there's a void. Because you are part of the body of Christ. You are part of us. And when you leave, there is a void. So you do belong there because it is your home, technically. Okay, so what I would encourage you to do, because you sound like a person that I would listen to. You have a real passion about you. And I'm pleased. I loved your call. When you said we weren't going to like it, I actually love it. It's really helping me and inspiring me. Please go to your local parish, your Catholic parish that you feel comfortable going to, and set a meeting with the pastor and share your thoughts and say, listen, I should be in ministry. I can help. I can make God real in the Catholic Church to people that are coming to masses. And you know what, David? You will find that when you're in ministry, it's amazing what happens to you. I can't explain it. You have to really be in ministry to understand it. We call it the ministry bug, David. And you catch it and you can't let go of it. It's so incredible. Please do something with that passion that's in your voice, and do it in the Catholic Church. We need you. We want you. This is your home. I have to just say that because I feel it strongly.
I have too many problems, especially with the Vatican. I think that the church look, God needs warriors, okay? We have Christians being massacred in the Middle East. We have the church going down the drain in Europe. The only place that the church is really making any headway is in the third world. And quite frankly, we have to address things differently in a highly technological society. And I just don't think that most of the churches are going to I've actually thought about starting my own ministry, because I would love to be in the Catholic Church. But there's a lot of things in the Catholic Church that, like I said, all this, people want to feel good. To be disgusted and angry in this world is the sign of sanity, because this world is sick.
Well, David, I truly believe in what you're saying and your passion. I mean, we're not too far off on the fact that we need to do something in this world, and with everybody being persecuted right now, I couldn't agree with you more, especially all the Chaldean Catholics. My heart bleeds when I read these stories in the news on a daily basis. But David, one thing I just want to share with you, and I want to say this with such charity and love. David, we have the real presence in the Catholic Church. We have the real presence. The Eucharist is our source and summit. People ask me all the time, Debbie, if the Catholic Church did a bunch of things that were totally wrong and illegal and this and that, would you leave the church? And I said, I would never leave the church. And they say, why? And I said, the Eucharist. Now, if, God forbid, the Catholic Church, were to do something different with the Eucharist, then it would be a whole nother story. But guess what? It'll never change. We have the Eucharist, David, and that is the truth. And so if you can tail off of that and do your ministry within the church, David, you would be explosive. You would change lives. So please consider that. That's my prayer for you. Jerry?
I would add too, David, that we have to make a distinction between the church and members of the church. The church is in her essence a spotless bride in terms of her teachings, in terms of what Debbie was saying, the Eucharist and all of this. It just so happens that we humans kind of mess things up once in a while. And we had a call a few moments ago, referencing the pre-sex abuse scandal. This was a tiny number of men. Nevertheless, it is a giant scandal because obviously priests are called to, the church calls it, considers it the highest objective calling. So, and St. Paul writes about being worthy of the calling we have received. So we have to remember it's people in the church, but not the church herself in her essence that is doing these sorts of things. And David, I would just close with this. We've got another call or two before we wrap up the show, but are there any... You talk about warriors, and I want to assure you, men's groups and movements and men's conferences are just proliferating around the country right now. So I don't know if you're aware of any sort of one of these men's groups that you can get together with in your area and really be strengthened and help strengthen the other guys. Do you know of anything like that where you are?
No, I drive a truck over the road. About what I tell most Christians is when you get out of church, don't go to Shoney's, go to the gun range.
Yeah. All right. Well, David, you have made our day. Believe me, I know I can speak for Debbie on that.
Absolutely.
And we're gonna keep you in our prayers, David. We do have to move on here. Teresa is waiting patiently, but thank you for calling. Thanks for listening, David. It shows that there's still that spark of Catholicism in your heart there if you're listening to Catholic radio. And please just pray for us, too, if you would. And God has a plan for you, David, and I think Debbie's right. I think he's going to use you to really touch the hearts of especially men, because we really need men to be manly, masculine. We need them to be warriors today. So, David, you are right on. Thanks for your call to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move right along to Teresa. Teresa listening on JMJ Radio. I love that. Hi, Teresa. Welcome to Take Two. And please let us let me just state right up front, we only have a couple minutes and we have to close the show. So, hi, Teresa.
Okay.
Welcome.
I just wanted to let you know, I didn't know if anybody knew about this, but they have a course down at North Carolina University called Literature of 9/11, and it justifies why 9/11 should have happened. I just don't know if anybody knows about that. My son and I were just having lunch, and he was reading online about it, and I said, you know what? Today's 9/11, and they're justifying it down at North Carolina University. So I just thought maybe we could look more into that. And I'm going to pray for David. I've been listening. And the only Bible scripture I would like to say right now is 1 Peter 2, and it's verse 15. For it is God's will that by doing right you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. Live as free men, yet without using your freedoms as a pretext for evil, but live as servants of God. Honor all men, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the emperor. And I pray for my enemies every day when we pray the rosary after Mass. And I will keep David in my prayers and you. And I hope we can find some more information on that about North Carolina.
Well, I'll tell you what, Teresa, I just did a search on the internet. I did University of North Carolina literature of 9/11, and there is a lot of stuff that comes right up immediately, and it appears that there is a course that is being offered that is, at its core, very sympathetic to the jihadists, those who perpetrated the attack on America on September 11th. A spokesman for the university says that they're just challenging students and they don't advocate one viewpoint over another. So really, I don't know what can be done about it. I mean, this is par for the course for university campuses and classrooms. Unfortunately, in the name of academic freedom, so much weirdness and wackiness is promoted. But Teresa, thanks. Got to end the show on your call. We appreciate you calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Debbie, great program. Our listeners, again, just showed how really in tune they are and what a blessing it is to be able to be with them every day.
Yeah, and my takeaway obviously today is that I don't want to have a tragedy to happen again for all of us to rush to the churches and to fill and to overflow the churches. I just really pray that we grow closer to God on a daily basis, stay aware, and really use that passion and channel it in the direction of bringing souls closer to Christ. I mean, that really is my prayer and my takeaway for today, Jerry. How about you?
Yeah, my takeaway is I'll just start with myself. We've got to make God the center of our lives each and every day, every moment of the day. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes we get discouraged about our relationship with God, thinking, well, I don't have time. I'm not a monk. I don't have time to go into quiet prayer 6 or 8 times a day. You don't have to, according to your state in life. But I think everybody can carve out an hour a week to go to Eucharistic adoration. Certainly weekend Mass, and definitely the Mass, sacrifice of the Mass is offered every weekday in most areas too. So there's just a lot of things we can do. And again, I get back to what I said. God is always pursuing us. All we got to do is just make ourselves available to Him, Deb.
I love how you just said that. That just brings me such peace and contentment. So I hope David, our truck driver friend, is listening on Monday, because we're going to be talking about the power of Eucharistic adoration. And I would love to keep the conversation. We would love to keep the conversation going on take2show.com or on Facebook, EWTN Catholic Radio, or you can Twitter on Twitter at Take2 Show. I just got another Twitter follower, Jerry. I don't even know how to use Twitter, and I just got another one. I was kind of excited about that. So yeah, Eucharistic adoration.
Your Twitter handle out there right now. You'll probably get 100 people.
I don't even know my Twitter handle. I don't even know it.
At D Giorgiani, isn't it?
It is? Okay, at D Giorgiani. There you go. See, I told you I was being honest. I got to learn up on that. Stay up on this. Eucharistic adoration on Monday, dear listeners. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and we cannot do this show without you. This is a peer-driven ministry. We want to look at life from all different angles. So we think about it on Monday. Bring your thoughts and your comments to the table on Monday and join in on the show. And maybe you could even write down the number now. So on Monday, you could quickly dial in. It's 1-800-585-9396. That's for Monday's show. Yes, Jerry.
All right, tell you what. Let's have a little fun here. Debbie's Twitter account is at D Giorgiani. Mine is at Jerry Usher. So let's see which one of us can get the most followers on Twitter in the next hour or so. That'll be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what to do with it, but okay.
At D Giorgiani, at Jerry Usher. We'd love to follow you back, too. We just have great connections with you, our listeners. And as Debbie said, we're going to talk about the power of Eucharistic adoration on Monday here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Debbie, it's been an awesome week.
Oh, it's been an amazing week. Thank you so much. And thanks to our dear listeners. We wish you a beautiful and blessed weekend. See you Monday.